What is up, guys? Nate Liss back with you once again. Listen, this week, what I did was I created a 12-team SuperFlex tight end premium mock draft that I wanted to post for you guys. We did it with a bunch of patrons and some public members that we put together over on our Discord channel. Now, if you guys want to jump into the Discord or join a future mock or keep up with all the draft takes and fantasy football analysis that this group is putting together and you don't know how to get there, then look in the description and you will find a link that will take you all the way there. Guys, again, I appreciate all the new subscribers that I'm gaining on a daily basis. And for those of you that have checked back and not subscribed yet, if you guys have gained any value from the content that I am putting out, hit the like button, consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss any of this content as it continues to roll out. And of course, like always, if you guys comment below, there is a 100% chance that I am going to reply to you. This mock draft was really interesting. It was 60 seconds per pick for a SuperFlex startup. I got timed out once in about round 5 and ended up with Derrick Henry, which was shocking. But you'll learn all about it once we get in there. I break it down from a philosophy standpoint, why I wouldn't or why I would pick certain players, trying to predict who people were going to take based on what made the most sense. All that takes place in this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching. What's up, guys? Nate Liss here. Once again, this is an impromptu patron-only startup draft mock version. 12-team, 60-second clock. This is a SuperFlex tight end premium. I have elected to select in the 12th spot at the turn. I mean, of course, it being a mock draft, you can kind of pick wherever you want to be, but the turns are always the best in my opinion. You have a little more assurance of what's going to be there. Of course, this being an impromptu mock, nobody had an opportunity to trade picks, so these are just straight selections that you're going to see. And not so surprisingly, we're going to see a run on quarterbacks here up until the point that somebody takes Jonathan Taylor. So I'll pull this up here, and hopefully my image in the corner doesn't block everything. Boy, picking way back here at 12. You know how SuperFlex goes. I mean, you want to get your quarterbacks, but what's going to happen is by the time I get to my spot, this might be the point where you see me take a guy like Russell Wilson, dependent on who's available, still younger in his prime at 33. I mean, of course, you know, you've got quarterbacks that are 22, 23, so not young in that sense, but Russell Wilson could have 4, 5, 6 productive years left if quarterback play continues to trend the way that it has with Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. We could have multiple seasons of Russell Wilson left. Jamar Chase at 4, that is actually surprising to me to see him go that high. I mean, again, I love Jamar Chase. I think his production value is immense. But look, Justin Jefferson is still on the board 5 picks later. We'll see when Jefferson goes. If it gets to me and there's a top tier, see, Taylor's gone. If it gets to me and a top tier running back is available, I'll probably go QB running back here. So let's see what happens as it rolls my direction. I'm expecting to see maybe Jefferson go. Maybe Jefferson goes here. But again, I think this group is probably going to look at quarterback and running back more. Oh, there he goes. That was the pick. And then there's Pitts, and it's to me now. And Dak was kind of what I was hoping for. This is sort of the back end of this option for me. So I'm going to click Dak, who to me is still a top 6 Dynasty quarterback. Let's take a little look at the running back position. Javonte Williams is going to have this backfield all to himself. Christian McCaffrey's here. It feels bold to click Javonte right now in this spot, but I'm doing it. We're going Javonte. No guts, no glory. It is a mock. Look, there goes Najee Harris. I'd be curious to find out if the guy that's picking in the 11th spot actually wanted Williams there. But Harris is a great pick. Christian McCaffrey really is like the supreme value here. As you watch him sort of continue to slide down the board. Hasn't been picked yet. Still on the younger side of things. Again, he's not one of these 27, 28-year-old running backs. He's still got some time left. The injuries have really zapped people's opinions of him, though, and so you tend to see him fall a little more. Obviously, once upon a time, Christian McCaffrey was floating up here at the top portion of the draft. Since then, we've seen him slide, but this is a guy that could morph into a slot-type receiver for a portion of his career. I mean, he doesn't have to be primarily a running back in this offense. So still probably the most dynamic player in all of football in terms of capabilities, but we're going to continue to watch him slide. I would imagine that McCaffrey doesn't make it out of the next, well, let me see who's here left at quarterback. Boy, if McCaffrey doesn't go by the end of this round, I'll be surprised. Just looking at things, but it just depends on how bad people want to pull the trigger on wide receiver. But once these two guys are off the board, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, when I'm looking at the landscape of wide receivers, it's like we have a big tier break. Obviously, you guys that follow my work know that I'm a fan of CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, to me, A.J. Brown and him have a lot of similarities, a lot of production similarities, some of the same hurdles thus far. And they're sort of the next tier. Some people would consider A.J. Brown sort of in a tier of his own, and then CeeDee Lamb beyond him. There goes McCaffrey. So when you get past those top two receivers, now it's kind of like, okay, I grab the two very best at the position and the two guys I see the most longevity out of. Now the question is, can CeeDee Lamb take the next step? Will A.J. Brown stay healthy and get his production back up to what we saw 2 years ago? Well, there's a lot of questions about that, and that's what's going through people's heads as they're sitting on the clock, looking at these players going, damn, do I really want this guy or should I wait? Do I wait and grab DK Metcalf a little bit later because he has that immense ceiling, but also it's being throttled right now by a lack of quarterback options? So that's kind of what goes through people's heads. So it doesn't surprise me when we see wide receivers sort of get pushed down the board a little bit, because year over year, production at the wide receiver slot is a little easier to curb. Let me move myself in this video here, because I'm going to put myself in the middle for a minute. Just so you guys can see this board on the left over here. So there goes A.J. Brown. Not a surprise. You would figure, so third receiver off the board, fairly typical selection. Mark Andrews has been great. There goes Lamb. So now the younger guys had sort of come into the conversation as the quarterbacks had dwindled off, as the running backs had sort of reached this tier where now we're looking at 27-year-old running backs. Antonio Gibson still being slept on like crazy. I think we're going to see Kenneth Walker go pretty soon, just based on the landscape right now. If somebody's hungry for a younger running back, I think we're going to see that take place. So kind of waiting on this, because when we look at the wide receivers, so Jalen Waddle, there you go. Call it what you want to call it. I think that Waddle is probably outside the top 12 in terms of production. We don't know that Tua can support two receivers anyways, and Tyreek Hill just got paid immense money, so it would be a surprise to see both of these guys not get throttled back a little bit. And if Tyreek Hill already had crazy variance in Kansas City, well, what do you think is going to happen in Miami with a team that has a capable high-end tight end? They just added a guy like Chase Edmonds who can catch the ball out of the backfield. Of course, we've got other receivers there as well in Waddle. Metcalf off the board, not a surprise. So still sort of the consensus top 5 young dynasty wide receivers. So there they go. So that's that. So the next guy that's still floating here is T. Higgins. Now, to me, I've come around on T. Higgins. It's hard to believe that two players from the same offense are really going to put up stellar production. We've seen it in the past with Diggs and Thielen. We've seen it with Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown. It's not uncommon for teammates to both have a top 10 season, but it's rare. And in this particular offense, it's interesting because we watched these two guys in Cincinnati, short of the playoffs, really go back and forth on productive games. The one thing that I always notice, though, about these two players is that what T. Higgins does is impressive, but he does it on a requirement of a lot more volume than Jamar Chase does. Jamar Chase can have 6 targets, and that can turn into 2 touchdowns for 125 yards. If T. Higgins gets 6 targets, that's probably 72 yards and maybe a score. Jamar Chase just has this other level of ability. There goes T. Higgins, not a surprise. So that right there to me is sort of the group that I was the most confident in. Deebo Samuel, of course, has this monster year, so I get why he's up there right now. I would have preferred T. Higgins to Deebo Samuel, to be quite honest with you. I just think that with the injury volatility, with the quarterback change, with other talented players in that offense, what we may have seen from Deebo was the very best we will ever see from Deebo, and most likely the ceiling. To me, you don't go much higher than what Deebo did last year, which also was infused with a lot of rushing opportunity. All right, let me get focused here for a second. I'm going to be on the turn. I've got a quarterback. I've got a running back. Let me check back on quarterbacks. Mac Jones, Tua, Kenny Pickett, Zach Wilson. So, not the greatest selection. There goes Rodgers. I'm not afraid to draft veterans. So, now I'm back on the clock. Austin Eckler's here. Young running backs are kind of gone. I'm going to go ballsy here, and I'm going to go Kenneth Walker, because I believe in Kenneth Walker. I think his profile shows an elite potential rusher. Question marks about what the receiving upside will be, but a lot of confidence in taking him. And here we are at the wide receiver position, and it's such a barren wasteland. But I don't want to miss out on QBs either with such a long run coming. I know I can make up these guys on the back end. Oh, brother bear. Who do you even take here when you're looking at the quarterback position? Let's switch over to tight end for a second. Waller's here. This is tight end premium. Boy, I'm going to sleep on some of these guys. 22 seconds left on the clock. 1 minute timer. Damn you. Treylon Burks, Adams, Tyreek Hill. Boy, do I really want to go QB here. Boy, I'm going to go... God, I don't want to go Tua at all. I'm on the clock. I am going to go, fuck it. We're going Tua right here. I love what we saw from Tua from a deep ball perspective, from a completion percentage perspective. He did a lot of things last year, despite having no time to throw, despite having an atrocious offensive line, despite maybe a limit in some of his weapons in a capacity. Now you're going to add a running back, again, in Edmonds. You're going to add an additional receiver in Tyreek. We're adding help to the offensive line in terms of free agent additions so far. We'll see what they do in the draft. But Tua's ceiling is obviously very high. It's a risky pick in a startup, again, with a 60-second clock and me not doing analysis. Maybe that pick would have been slightly different. But again, what you're going to see now is a lot of players with question marks. The next pick after me was Dobbins. We're hearing, Melvin Gordon is talking to Baltimore, the organization, about possibly signing there. DJ Moore, ton of upside, but it hasn't manifested into an immense fantasy season. Saquon Barkley, a lot of people have given up on him. Saquon Barkley would have been a top 3 pick a couple years ago. Now we're seeing him slide into the early 4th round. So this is where you're going to start seeing a ton of question marks. We might see some more rookie quarterbacks come off the board. Here goes Mac Jones right here. So it wouldn't surprise me to see one of these other young quarterbacks go off the board here to one of these future teams, but you're likely not going to see it from any of, maybe 2 of the next 6 teams will do it. I'm looking at Breadwinner and this guy Dylan. I think these 2 might be in a position to take a quarterback right now, which wouldn't surprise me if they did, just based on sort of the landscape of what's going on right now. But when I look at my team, it's young. I think it's got a ton of upside. I like where I'm headed. I think what I can do is come around on wide receiver in the future. Look at the gaps that are taking place at wide receiver. So we had a selection here in Chase, then we get Jefferson, then we get a bit of a cluster, right? We get 4 guys and 4 picks, 5 guys and 6 picks. Then we start to stretch when we get to the players that maybe the confidence isn't as close on. I think Higgins, again, should have gone above Samuel, so that's not a statement that I'm buying into. But then we see the stretch to Kupp, who's an older wide receiver, but we believe that maybe he plays past the age apex productively. Then the turn, DJ Moore, then a stretch to Diggs. Here goes some of the guys that there are question marks around that are a little older at the position. You have to round out your running back position, but Eckler, I just did a short not too long ago. I believe that Eckler is a guy that can play longer than I think anybody expects. I mean, the guy's proven that his effort will take him to the next level and he will ascend. This is a guy that had undrafted status, kind of ascended a depth chart, proved himself, became an elite fantasy commodity, and doesn't just do it as a 2-down grinder. This guy is a spatial, dynamic creator, and he takes care of himself, and he's proved that he'll work his ass off. So I believe that a guy like Eckler will play significantly longer than some of the other guys around him that are currently being selected. So, and all these guys have question marks at this point, right? Hawkinson had some injuries. Will he ascend to, top 3, top 4 status like people had believed in the past? I love Travis Etienne. I did a whole video about him. But again, questions about Etienne coming off the injury. Devontae Adams, we don't know what he'll be in Las Vegas. So Kelsey aging, but less, weapons around him currently, so he could have a big season in store. But what does he have going into the future? Because the age apex at the tight end position is essentially where he's at now in that age 31, 32, 33 range. So I think that this is the part of the draft where it's less auto-click. You're not just easily just clicking a player and saying, I feel good about that. Because look at Nick Chubb, right? Nick Chubb is getting into that age group where, again, if you believe in the age apex, these are the guys that reach this age 25, 26, 27 season, and it's like, how much of that production do you want to use in 2022 before you get to the point where their value isn't high enough? So in this example, Alvin Kamara, who knows what his season looks like next year? You might want to ride the wave with him for 3 to 4 to 5 weeks, and if your team isn't competitive, you flip him to get future value. Because what happens is if you trend too deep into the season with a guy like Kamara and people start to look at that age and they start to, look forward a year and go, oh, he's going to be 27, 28, then you start to question if you really want to roster a player knowing that they've crested past the age apex so far. So I think that's the mentality with taking these guys. It's really hard in a startup. You have to have positional talent, of course, to compete, but at the same time, you sort of want that longer form, non-time sensitive personnel. And so I feel like that's what I've got right now with Dak, Javonte, Kenneth Walker, and Tua. So it's going to come back to me. I haven't hit the wide receiver position yet, but let's click that and take a look. Look, we still have Chris Godwin on here, who's coming off the ACL tear, but obviously looked like a top 12 player in the league. I'm pretty high on Michael Pittman. That's another player that I really like. Looking at tight end, it really thinned out. Tight end thinned out a lot. We had a little bit of a run here on tight end. I missed Goddard. That was kind of the end of that group for me that I really wanted to keep an eye on. I don't think these guys are going to double down on tight end too early, especially in a mock. So I am going to probably get my hand forced here to have to go with a wide receiver here. Boy, they got all the rookies. I hate being the first guy to sort of take the leap of faith on one of these rookies, but did Godwin go? Son of a biscuit. Godwin went. As I'm talking, I lose sight of all these guys. I am going to go. Boy, I'm doing it. I'm going Michael Pittman. I just did a tweet about Michael Pittman, looking at the production that he had put together and looking at how he had done it. So with Carson Wentz, we saw some accuracy issues. We saw some on-target passing issues. And now what's happening is we're getting Matt Ryan, who actually came off of a better season in 2021 than the one that he had in 2020 when he made Calvin Ridley a household name. So you take a guy who played for the Atlanta Falcons, who had in PFF's rankings the 27th worst offensive line, and now he goes over to play for the Colts, and the Colts have a top 12 offensive line. So it's just interesting to look forward and go, okay, Matt Ryan was incredibly accurate last season. He's getting an upgrade in an O-line. He's getting the top running back in the NFL. He's getting, revamped weapons on the outside. I realize that the Colts don't really have anything, but one of the things that I believe about Michael Pittman is that he's not getting replaced by a veteran. We've already seen that. And he's likely not getting replaced by rookie draft capital. This is a team that doesn't really have any additional picks to really thwart his upside, but he needs to survive the draft. It could still happen, but let's see what happens here. Oh, shit. I talked my way through the pick. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I can't even believe this. On the turn, and on the turn, and I fucking missed it. Are you kidding me? Wow. Well, that sucks. Talked right through my own pick. God damn it. All right. Anyways, well, I guess I got Derrick Henry, which absolutely sucks. I can't believe I just did that. I should have stayed more focused on that. So what happens when you get me talking about Michael Pittman? So this is ridiculous. So, boy, I probably would have gone with, I probably would have double tapped wide receiver there. And that was just a bad, well, anyways, so Terry McLaurin felt like sort of the end of the youngish veteran run. So guys, to me, and I'm not going to get to him, Keenan Allen is a player that I've recently talked about that I think has a lot of upside going forward, despite the fact that he's one of the older receivers in the league. I just think that his game will translate for a longer period of time, especially with the contract that he was given just a year or two ago. But this is where you're going to see a lot of guys hit up these rookies right now. So here we go. Here goes the run on all rookie wide receivers. So they're all toast. So that's not coming back my direction. Can't believe we got Derrick Henry down there. Well, if Derrick Henry plays for another 19 years, that pick might work itself out. Hopkins, I mean, you can see that, Brady Miller here, not afraid to step into the veterans, especially this being a mock. I understand. I don't know that he would do this in a real startup draft, if you would want all these players of these age groups, but it gives you the most productive team today. Kyler's young, Andrews is young, Stafford's plenty young, same as Russell Wilson. Then you've got Diggs, who's still got years left. Kamara, if he plays past it. Hopkins, obviously a little older. So, but that's a productive team, and that's a very productive team. Right now, that might be the team that wins the league in year one, just on paper. So looking ahead, Mitchell, not a surprise. That's about where I would expect him to go. Let's see who's still on the board here. Got Elliott getting treated like a second-class citizen for sure. Yeah, I mean, we're reaching. I wonder when Rachaad White goes, because I feel like Rachaad White's one of these names that's gaining a lot of steam. We talked about him on a recent podcast. He's gaining a lot of buzz in the analytics community, and if somebody just kind of goes on the perceived draft potential, then I would imagine he should be going off the board fairly soon here. Just with, there's a couple quarterbacks left, but most teams have two quarterbacks now with the exception of two rosters. So in a mock, I don't think that we're going to see too many triple selections of quarterbacks, but, wouldn't shock me, I guess, if it happened. I don't expect it. And at the quarterback position, though, we're sort of running out of veterans. I'm surprised Tannehill is where he's at right now, just based on some of the other guys that went off the board. I guess Carr has recently gotten a bump in value. But Cousins, Tannehill, Wilson are usually about the same area in terms of sort of ADP. So we'll see what happens here. Still can't believe I timed out on Derrick Henry. Boy, that is just what a clusterfuck. Wow. Well, I'll be better next time, guys. Unbelievable. You know what? I'm not going to do any analysis on my own picks. No, I have to do analysis on my own picks. I can't not do analysis on my own picks, for God's sakes. So there goes Pat Freiermuth, Montgomery. Boy, we'll see what happens here. I'm curious. I feel like this would be a quarterback here. But if you really don't care, there you go. So quarterback taken, Kenny Pickett, one of the first rookies. So we had Willis go way up here at 3.6. So we got Pickett at 7.4, which is almost his hand size. So that's good. You get a discount there, and so we know where he goes in the NFL draft. We imagine he's still going to be an early pick day one. So we'll see what happens. The way that it shakes out, some analysts say we're going to see 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks in the first round. Bucky Brooks, who's historically completely off base, said we'll see no quarterbacks in the first round. maybe it's possible, but I think Malik Willis just had way too much momentum. If nobody else, Malik Willis goes round 1, top 10 pick. Pretty assuredly, I think, with a potential trade up to get him. So we'll see how that goes. He could certainly change the face of a franchise just in a pure dynamic manner. What he adds to the game as an on-field playmaker is something that's really rare. I mean, and I will admit, I'm not a fan of the decision-making behind the line when he's making passing decisions, when he's making his reads. I mean, he's made a lot of errant throws. He takes a lot of risks. But at the same time, you want a quarterback that's willing to take risks. You don't want an Alex Smith. You don't want a Teddy Bridgewater. You need somebody that's willing to try to hit that deep throw it into that tight window, whatever's required, and then his legs are just on another level. And, from what you hear, the leadership qualities and all of that's on point too. So, well, if this gets back to me, that Derrick Henry pick really, really screwed me. But Keenan Allen is going to be the guy that I'm going to pick if it comes back to me. Again, I really like Keenan Allen. I want to be competitive year 1. And what I like to do is give my team a young nucleus of talented players. And then what I do is I can confidently take some son of a biscuit. Keenan Allen goes 2 picks before me, completely throws me for a loop. Boy, that really shook it up. So now I'm going to maybe change my plans here. I'm going to scan the wide receiver position real quick. I got 37 seconds on the clock, twice in a row, so I get to double tap here. Looking at the tight ends available, I've got Tua, so I am going to probably go Gesicki on my next pick. Maybe. Looking at the wide receiver position, I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here. I think Cooper has a ton of upside in next season, especially depending on how many games Watson plays and what they do. I don't know that they're going to add much competition. Maybe somebody comes around, but Amari Cooper is an alpha talent, still 27 years old, so young enough to give you multiple years of high-end production. Looking at the running back position again, not loving it. I don't know that I want to be the first to take one of these receivers. I'm seeing Allen Robinson. I'm loving his value. He's sort of going to be my makeup pick for Keenan Allen if I can get him later. We'll see if it'll come back around to me. Not totally sure that that's the case. I'm going to go ahead and take Mike Gesicki here, pair him with Tua Tagovailoa and this offense and grab a top 10 tight end, a guy who finished as a top 80 overall scorer last season in tight end premium formats. So there goes St. Brown. So, maybe somebody was camping on Brown there anyways. I mean, looking at this roster, he probably was targeting Brown the whole time, just over the last handful of picks here. Looking at Elijah Moore, looking at J.K. Dobbins, looking at Najee Harris. So definite youth on that roster. I mean, I have some in the same way, but I think we've seen a lot of my players as well. So Bateman goes, this is where wide receiver gets a little ugly here, because now the question is, how soon, there goes Mike Williams. I was just going to bring up Mike Williams. How soon does Williams go versus one of these rookies? If I was going to predict, I would be willing to bet that I'm going to make a bet here. I'm going to bet that Brady Miller, if he doesn't go running back, I'm going to bet that we see Michael Thomas or Allen Robinson go right here. That's the pick. I'm calling it right now based on this roster. He's trying to dominate the mock draft. He's trying to claim the greatest win now team in the history of mock drafts. So I believe that the pick that's going to come in here is going to be either Allen Robinson or Michael Thomas. Even though he needs a running back, I don't think he cares. I think he's looking at the running backs on the board. And unless it's Aaron Jones, I just don't think that he is confident in it. But it could be Aaron Jones. So I'm going to guess, there goes Michael Thomas. So it's either Allen Robinson or Aaron Jones and Brady Miller's pick. Let's see what he does. Let's see what happens here. On the clock, chewing on my fingernails. Does he go with another upside veteran and just absolutely go for the throat in year 1? Tannehill just went off the board. What's it going to be? Come on, just do it already. You want either Aaron Jones or Allen Robinson. He's scanning the board. He's using some clock here. It wasn't an instant pick. I think the Michael Thomas selection really got in his kitchen. So let's see what happens here. Might be totally wrong. I might be completely wrong, but I'm looking at the build out of this roster. And unless he's trying to go with definitive veterans with upside and then try to go younger later, that could happen. But we're going Aaron Jones or Allen Robinson, 15 seconds. Let's see what happens. 10 seconds. He's waffling. He's not going to time out. This has got to be him thinking. Don't you time out on me, Brady. Here comes the pick. And he timed out. Oh, my goodness. Oh, it was Aaron Jones anyways. Look at that. Oh, so we were right. We were half right, guys. That sucks that Brady timed out because I really want to know who he would have taken there. I feel like that was probably his most probable selections. But again, I don't know. But Aaron Jones does round this roster out really, really well. I mean, still one of the most elite talents in the league. They lose Devontae Adams. So what are they going to do to make up this production with Aaron Rodgers? So not a surprise. Let me scroll down a little bit here. Scroll down a bump, if you will. Can't believe Brady timed out completely. Now, you know what? We'll go right there. That'll work. So Brady times out, completely nukes my whole bit. Ezekiel Elliott going at 8-12. Man, it's pretty crazy to see Zeke go at 8-12 and see guys like Kamara go at 5-5. Zeke's still been productive. I understand the concerns with a guy like Tony Pollard behind him, but remember, Tony Pollard's contract will end before Ezekiel Elliott's immensely grotesque contract ends. Zeke will live beyond Pollard. I mean, that's going to happen short of them extending Pollard, but I think Pollard knows from like a backup role, he is the new wave Ben Tate. He has value. He could go elsewhere if he wanted and probably get a sizable contract with a potential starting job. So I think that's entirely possible. Now, okay, we're getting back to Brady. Now, is Brady going to time out or is Brady going to pick Allen Robinson here? Oh, Clyde Edwards. Didn't see that coming. But he got Aaron Jones, so maybe that completely changes game. We'll have to talk to him and see what he says. A lot of young guys going off the board. I'm a big fan of Christian Watson, but I feel like I don't have enough depth to take him right now. I know Juju's going to sit around here for a little bit. We've got a lot of young guys still left. There goes Schultz off the board. How many quarterbacks are left? Howell, Ritter, Mayfield. It's not great. We got Brady. So I think some of these guys might hang on quarterback for a little bit, especially with Glendale over here. I think he's just got the one QB, but he's got Jefferson. So let's see if he decides to go quarterback here. I don't know if he's going to necessarily pull the trigger. I could see him in a mock go Ritter here just for that rushing upside. But then again, looking at the next two teams after him, he really doesn't, if a quarterback that he really wants, there goes Robinson, he doesn't have to go quarterback here. He knows the next two teams, the next four picks after him are not quarterback. So he doesn't need to. So I wonder if he sits back here and takes the best skill position player that's not quarterback. Could certainly see him going one of these wide receivers. I could see Juju going here if he doesn't decide to go really young. Brandon Cooks just got extended if you're looking for an older veteran. We'll see what he does. Tony Pollard, okay. All right, that's an interesting pick there, but are you betting on the Zeke injury? Are you betting on the future? Fudge me. Now, I'm back on the clock. I'm a little thin at wide receiver, so I do need to shore this up. Boy, would it be super appropriate for me to go with my typical wide receiver in Juju? Yes. I do have two running backs. Most of these teams don't have that many running backs. I'm going to wait. There's some young rookie guys down here that I think I can take a swing on in just a minute. So, boy, we've really lost some of our upside here. So I think that I'm going to go Juju. I've been hyping up Juju kind of all offseason, goes and plays for the Chiefs. So I love the landing spot. Tyreek leaving made it even better. And then at the running back position, God, the lack of confidence that any number of these guys are actually going to end up smashing this year is tough. I see Chase Edmonds down here. I wonder how long he'll be around. So I'm going to punt any additional running backs, which I don't need with 3 on the board already. Wide receiver thinned out. Everybody else is a little old, so I'm going to go Christian Watson. I'm really high on Christian Watson. He's definitely got early day 2 draft capital in him, and I think that we have a potential that he goes round 1. I'm seeing it more and more as teams start to dig into his profile. I really love what I saw from him when I started to review more and watch more, so I'm going to go Watson here. Might be a little early, but again, I look at the landscape and James Conner, good player, just got an extension, backfield's all his. He's certainly played better than expectation. When will that end? I don't know. Now here people are going rookies. People are going Sky Moore. Probably see Dotson go off the board at some point, but when you've got Cooks and when you've got Tyler Lockett still on the board, my curiosity is going to be around them. This is a team with a lot of veterans. This could be the type of guy right now who does take one of these 2. So there you go. Albert O at tight end. He was missing a tight end. Here's another player in need of a tight end. So we can see one go right here as well. Kind of slightly opposite build, but decided to go, wide receiver about the same point between these 2 rosters. We just started running back here. This one started quarterback, but actually like both rosters. So he's going wide receiver once again. Not too worried about the tight end position. Already got his running backs. Already got his quarterbacks, if you will. Question marks. But, I've got Tua. So there's not much I can really say about that. Renfro off the board. Renfro put together one of the most absurd seasons. The early breakout finder, funny thing, before the algorithm of the breakout finder changed, when Russell Clay and I had started it, Hunter Renfro broke the system originally. He was certainly a guy, and he benefited a lot from the teammate score, which is something that you guys here talked about more and more these days as we try to put context to players that don't put up staggering yearly production in college, but are also playing next to 4- and 5-star, players that are each putting up 700, 800 yards themselves. So Renfro was certainly surrounded by talent. Let's see here. So, okay, like we talked about, there goes Ritter, right? So Ritter off the board, not a surprise, the most mobility of all the remaining quarterbacks, possibly the highest draft capital of any of the younger names that we're seeing here. Definitely, it appears, based on who's left. There goes Brandon Cooks, like we said. Some of these teams, do you trust Waddle? Do you trust Mooney? If you're looking at that archetype of receiver, I might guess that a guy like Tyler Lockett would go with the next pick, not the pick we're on currently, though I could see it. But I think he believes he's got his receivers. I think you might see him. He can go either way. This is either receiver or running back. There's probably better receivers on the board right now, just in terms of the rookie class, unless he's going to go and take a guy he could go rookie running back here. It's possible. This could be a Zamir White pick. Could be a Brian Robinson pick. Lockett is going to go in the next 3 picks, I feel like. Are we timing out? Wow. Okay, this pick could be Lockett. I just feel like it sort of goes with the style of roster he's put together so far with these other receivers. Nope, he went rookie. He went Jahan Dotson. So I'm wrong there. Shame on me. Shouldn't have even tried to guess it. Looking at this roster too, we like Dylan. There's question marks about Elliott. That's why he fell as far as he did. 3 receivers. I'd probably go receiver again just to get production if I'm him. Come on. Just let's not let Lockett get out of this round. I feel like this is where we might see Lockett, unless he wants to bet on a younger player with less proven on-field performance. Could go running back, could go Damian Harris here. Definitely possible for the build-out of this roster, just with question mark maybe around Elliott. Again, I don't think there should be because I think he played really well. There goes Harris, so kind of what we thought could happen there. Zamir White, we just talked about him, very possible. So, again, I don't think Tyler Lockett makes it much further. I'm going to say it right now. Tyler Lockett doesn't make it out of this round. It doesn't happen. Tyler Lockett will not, come on, are you kidding me? Tyler Lockett will not make it out of this round. Everybody's pumping the running back position. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see what happens here. This is the roster. They need a running back. He's got to go back here, right? Unless he's just completely punted it. I could see Robinson here. I could see Penny go with this pick. I mean, I think Penny has the most possible upside amongst this group where there's no real competition for him per se. They've invested in him. They've said that they want to give him the opportunity. There goes Singletary. All right. Well, he went running back. Finally, help solidify. That was Buzzard. Help round out that roster. There goes Mayfield. I just maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe you guys know something I don't know. You don't love Lockett because of Drew Lock, right? I understand that, but there's a lot of picks in here that have been made that have not paid attention to landscape change. So I'm just going to sit silently for a minute and just nod and just, okay, there goes quarterback again. Again, maybe this guy now gets influenced because he could use a quarterback as well. But I could also see him go, boy, running back or quarterback is really the most important pick here for him. Is this going to be this could be an Edmonds pick. Again, we talked about Edmonds a little while ago. I might go Edmonds on my next pick. I don't really love the idea of going Edmonds because I think he's more immediate production over long-term performance value. But let's see what happens here. Okay, so Winston. So he took his quarterback. He got influenced. I think he saw the run a little bit. There goes quarterback again. So back to me. Boy, am I going to let... Boy, there's Carson still there. So running back is just absolutely toasted. Let me look at wide receiver for a minute. The QB run was somewhat predictable there. Rondale Moore, Michael Gallup. I mean, I like Gallup going back to Dallas, especially with the departure of Cooper. Chenault, Jacoby Meyer is still there. Van Jefferson, Kenny Golladay, Corey Davis. So I got 24 seconds on the clock. Don't want to go down that far. We're getting too far. When you have to scroll a full page, that's a problem. At best, that's a huge problem. So I think there's a chance that Lockett is still on the move in Seattle. Don't know it for sure. I'm going to go Lockett here because I can't let Lockett leave the round. Right, I made that statement. Back on the clock, renewed myself some time here. Let's look at the running back position for a minute. Brian Robinson, man, great college prospect. A little older, but again, rumors out of Alabama is that there were actually coaching staff that believed that he was a better player than even Najee Harris. So Brian Robinson could get early capital. God, I love Chase Edmonds, but do I really want to continue to stack this Miami offense? It's possible. I'd be punting on production going with Robinson because I just don't know where he gets drafted, but I'm going to buy into the fact that he's got day 2 draft capital and he's going to go to a landing spot that a lot of us are going to appreciate. So I'm going to go Robinson right here. And I don't think it's a really early pick when I look at the landscape. I guess I could have gone Penny, but do you believe that what we saw in that bulk set of performance from Penny was the real player? Or there goes Edmonds. Or do you believe that the Rashad Penny we saw for multiple seasons prior to that was the real player? Because I've done the analysis in the past on Rashad Penny, and when given a snap share over 50%, he basically destroyed the field. So I think that maybe it's an opportunity argument. We finally saw him getting it, and then suddenly he sort of flourished in this offense. But without Russell Wilson, will it be different? Will it be more difficult with a less pinpoint accurate passer, with a less mobile threat? Will all those things work against him? I don't know, but look, crowd consensus says I don't necessarily buy into him either, especially with, Carson questions. So let's see how long it takes for Rashad Penny to go off the board. There you go. Just like that. So it's not surprising to me because I think he had the most upside of any of these names left. So when I look at these names now we're talking about rookies, and James Cook's probably going to go here fairly soon. We can't necessarily put any real consensus draft round predictions on any of these players. I think the problem is that what you're doing is you're looking at veterans. So let's say with this Chase Edmonds selection, I was waffling between a guy that I had never seen before on an NFL field in Robinson and Chase Edmonds, who is immediate production. Okay, Williams going is actually a surprise considering that his profile was a complete implosion. But interesting pick. I'm going to have to talk to Brady about some of these picks. I got 1,000 questions for him. If you were a team that had bulk youth, I could see an interest in going Cordero Patterson at some point, not just yet, but in another round or two, to give you sort of a burst of production. But James Cook would be an interesting pick for one of these rosters. He's a guy that has a lot of upside, not quite Dalvin level, but there's a belief that he's going to have day 2 upside. And if he got that, then I think it makes him a great pick right here. But maybe he slides. I can see a couple more of these, these younger names that are left, but we've absorbed a massive amount of rookie picks in this draft already. So if I had to guess, looking at this roster, it's ultra balanced. He already went 2 tight ends. He might be one of the few teams that's gone 2. I see 2 tight ends here. There goes Ridley. A lot of upside there, right, Ridley? Don't know when he comes back. But he's a player that, again, 2 years ago put up a monster season. He then became a top 3 option at the wide receiver position in Dynasty for a period of time. So not too long ago, he was valued as one of the best players you could possibly own. So now we're looking, this team's got a bunch of running. He probably goes wide receiver. I mean, Gallup would be an option, unless he's going to go a lot younger. At some point, somebody's probably going to take Christian Kirk. But does he double down on tight end? He doesn't have one. I could see this being an Irv Smith pick right here. Who does he have at quarterback? He's got Mahomes. He's got Fields. So he goes David Bell. Bell has fallen. There goes Pierce. So it looks like maybe we see a run on some youth right here. You can't ever discount the fact that there is always an influence in startup drafts. You see a run, whether it's on quarterbacks, or you see a run on wide receivers, or you see a run on running backs. What happens is when a player has a position in mind and they feel like their guy is on the board, or they have a 1A, 1B situation, or a running back 1, running back 2 option, and they start to see that one of those guys go off the board, a nervousness begins, and you see them, for fear of missing out in the future, they'll just take their 1B guy, or they'll take their second option at that position, because it's this like motivational factor based on the run. I don't typically fall into the runs, but it just depends on where I'm at in my build. Right now, I've got some young guys. I wish I would have gotten that Derrick Henry pick is really unfortunate, because I think I could have put a much more prolific asset there. I mean, look at it. If I had a choice between Derrick Henry or possibly Treylon Burks or Wilson or London or Dillon, I mean, there's Henry's going to be productive. We don't know when this is going to stop. There goes Cook. Derrick Henry is incredibly productive, probably will be productive again, but we've also heard rumors now that Tennessee wants to find a player to put behind him as sort of the next guy, and it makes sense. You can only perform like this for so long, but Derrick Henry is built like a train, and we could see Henry play for sure longer than anybody expects. I mean, Derrick Henry playing till age 31, 32, 33 maybe productively, I believe it. I believe it's possible at a brutal position because he's just built different. Gordon, obviously a total value for a team that's looking for a burst. I mean, this team had no running backs, so don't know if Kareem Hunt ever leaves this roster, but if he did, if Gordon did, there's a chance that you get 2 starters there depending on where they go. Gallup and Kirk, very similar. If Kirk had gone to a team, if Kirk had gone to Green Bay, he goes 4 rounds before this, right? But he went to Jacksonville, and so he goes here. Him and Gallup, to me, feel like similar upside. Better situation, more proven player in a sense with Gallup. So Kirk and him side by side make a lot of sense, especially with Amari Cooper leaving Dallas. So that feels like a similar combo. Could be another running back pick here. Just looking at it, maybe this is going to be the Pierce selection if he's trying to go young, or if he's trying to go, Komet. Okay. And I'm back on the clock, so I better shut up. Let's see here who's available as I talk my way through everything. Wide receivers, Mechie, Wan'Dale Robinson, Thielen, Woods, Chark. Jalen Tolbert is another interesting high upside younger player. God, it's just so ugly when we get down here far enough. I mean, there's nobody to really fall in love with down there. Who do I have at quarterback? Jordan Love, Darnold, Trask, Huntley. Quarterback is not looking great either. So I'm going to slide back to the running back position. 20 seconds left. Receiver, Chark, Chuba, Jerome Ford, Algier. Boy, I got 10 seconds, and I really screwed myself here. So I am going to go with, I'm going to go Robert Woods here. Go back to the veteran pick in Tennessee. Again, don't love the pick, but in terms of the build-out, it gives me a guy that's going to be productive next season. But the question is, if A.J. Brown can't be effective per se in this offense, then how effective is he going to be? Evan Ingram, goddamn, such an athletic player, but just so many concerns about what's going to happen at this next destination. Never really fully panned out either. I want to go young at receiver again, just because what I'm trying to do is get a lot of lottery tickets at this point, because I think of all the positions, again, kind of got screwed here by one of my picks. I'm trying to scratch some lottery tickets at the position, but I just don't love most of what's available right now. Hubbard, Kenneth Gainwell, Pierre Strong. All right, we're going to go. Oh, God. I'm going to go. Oh, shit. Let's go Shenault. Didn't want it. Didn't want Shenault, but I think Shenault is going to be a potential trade asset on draft day. So looking ahead, hopefully Shenault goes elsewhere. I'm scratching the living fudge out of wide receiver lottery tickets now that my roster is just completely pooped the bed. Let's see here. So my starting roster, let me scroll back down to where the action's taking place. So Dak, Javonte, Kenneth Walker, like it. Pittman, Cooper, Smith-Schuster, Gesicki, Derrick Henry, Christian Watson. It's just, boy, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say here. These next guys going off the board, it's going to be a lot of runs of younger players. I think the upside sort of veteran options might go off the board here too. How soon does Cordero Patterson go off the board? He's one of these guys that if you thought that the season that Debo put together was an outlier, then you have to think that the season that Patterson put together was the most outlier of all outlier seasons of all time, right? Right? It has to be. There goes Irv. He was a name I probably should have gone back to tight end on that last one. Irv and Hunter Henry were both guys that I was thinking about. I should have taken either one of them. There goes Patterson. Not a surprise to see Patterson go there. So I think that Shenault and Tyler Lockett are both guys that are probably going to go in trades, possibly at the NFL draft. So we'll see what happens. Both of these guys could have renewed situations. And now I'm on the clock here soon, and I've got to make a pick. And I think that tight end is probably where I should go back to. So let me see here. Boy, oh boy. Let's see what happens. Njoku, interesting name. So there's a bit of a stall here. Let's see what this guy does. The running back position, a lot of times too, I'll and I haven't done it in this because I've been talking so much, but normally like if I go through and I see players that are on my list that I like, I'll click them. I like Pierre Strong. I think if anybody is this year's Elijah Mitchell, it's Pierre Strong. They feel like very similar players in terms of athleticism, in terms of performance, in terms of upside. Wow. Patterson and Thielen is the death now. That is liquid death back to back. So looks like somebody punted running back early, and now they're just grabbing as many running backs as they can to make up the difference. If he does it again, Could be Pierre Strong here if he's searching for just upside lottery ticket performance players. I'm going to click Nyheim Hines too, because I know that they talked about wanting to get him heavily involved in the passing game again. We've seen that performance out of him in the past. Russell Gage has a lot of upside in his new location. So if you were looking for, oh, there goes Njoku. God, that's a stinger. Man, I've gone a lot of receivers in a row too. I might go Pierre Strong here. I think Pierre Strong probably gets day 3 draft capital. So he gives me upside as a player that could get some year 1 possible production with an injury, and possibly win his way through camp to a more prominent role. Again, we saw a guy like Chuba Hubbard last year given an opportunity through injuries, ascension through the depth chart. So I think it's entirely possible, and we've hit the point in the draft where, there are some quarterbacks here. Marcus Mariota might be a guy to grab if you're looking for an additional quarterback. I mean, he's going to get a starting gig, but we don't know what Atlanta does, especially as he's aged a little bit and had a lack of opportunities. Rondale Moore or Ronald Jones, not a surprise to see him go there. We've really hit that point in the draft. But I don't really love any of these quarterbacks. I think the one thing you could say about Mariota is he currently has a starting job, and he's never been a guy that's played so poorly that you wouldn't want to select him. Like, here's Drew Lock, here's Marcus Mariota. They're in similar positions. Either one of these guys could be replaced with draft capital. That's entirely possible. Let me move myself here. That's entirely possible that through the NFL draft, both of these guys lose the starting gig. But of these two players, Marcus Mariota has done less to sort of, crater his perception and value. So there he goes, right there, right? That's not a surprise to me to see Mariota go. Now I'm back on the clock and I'm fucked. Mariota was a player that I was thinking about. That's a good pick there, just because maybe he doesn't get replaced. We don't know, but we know that Locke is probably not the long-term answer. We don't know about the same for him. So I think I've got Pierre Strong locked in. Let's go back to the tight end position. Get 1 year out of Gronkowski or more. How many years do we get out of Rob Gronkowski? I have no idea, but we know he's going to produce in year 1. I do need another tight end. I mean, is there any chance that he's worse than any of these other rookies? I mean, he's going to outperform Njoku. We know that for a fact. None of these other players at the tight end position are really popping out. I do like Evan Ingram, but I'm not going to get stuck with holding the bag there. And I think we're at the point in the draft where, unless you're willing to go with one of these veterans, again, here's Odell. He's got the injuries. Don't really know what his situation is completely. And then thumbing through the wide receivers, yeah, there's a lot of potential hopefuls here. We lost, what did we do? We lost, what's his face a while ago, right here, Jacoby Myers. So he's gone. Davis, Van Jefferson, Joshua Palmer. I just don't love anyone. We don't know what Fuller's going to do. Kendrick Bourne, Lazard. I mean, Lazard has potential, but I don't know that I need to take him right here. I mean, if you're looking for a guy in 2022, he might be your answer, but I don't want to take him in a startup because it's temporary. So I think I'm probably going to go Pierre Strong here and shake the game up. Just because if I'm betting on upside right now, I guess that's who I'm going to gamble on. That's the runner amongst this group. There goes Odell. Not a surprise if you're chasing veterans. Just looking at rookies, there are some guys here that have some upside with youth. But again, there's just so many questions. Not really anybody left here. There goes Gage, like we talked about. It's just there's not so many guys left amongst this group that you have any confidence in. And I felt like Pierre Strong was probably on somebody's board over the next couple picks. So Gage is gone. I know people are loving Gage. Let's just see what happens here. This is probably when we're going to see guys like Van Jefferson at some point might come off the board, just because people assume that what if an injury takes place? For the Rams, you have instant production, and Jefferson was decent last year when given opportunity. And at this point in the draft, like who else are you taking? Are you going to take a swing on Hardman? If you're a roster looking for a big upside home run threat, you got Curtis Samuel and Hardman. So both of these players offer that potential. Tim Patrick is down here. Alan Lazard, I'm going to cue him up, though, too. I guess even Parker, potentially, as we get further into the draft. Again, guys, I am a long way from picking, so I've got to cue some guys up, because what it does for me, too, is it sort of gives me a trigger of, oh, shit, I need to put more intensity into my search, into my review, because these guys are off the board. There goes Patrick. There goes Carson. So what does this guy need? I mean, he could go tight end again if he really wanted to. I mean, this could be an Evan Ingram pick possibly, but he's also tagged a bunch of wide receivers in this group. I'm trying to assume what this guy might do. Boy, I think he's going to take maybe one of these veteran wide receivers right here. There's the tight end. So, okay, he needed another tight end. Makes sense. He had gone 4 receivers in a row, but there's questions around kind of all those guys, if you will, in a sense. Who knows what level of production you get out of any of them, but he gets back-to-back picks. So he could decide that he wants to go receiver again right here. He's got a lot of running backs. I don't think he wants to go running back again, just with the landscape. So maybe this ends up a pick where he goes Corey Davis, because there's not really any competition yet. There will be, of course, people that believe him more. So let's see what happens right here. Let's see what this pick is. I'm curious to see if he goes receiver again. There's been a lot of guys who have punched down on receiver pretty heavy over the last couple rounds. So there's receiver again. There's the upside with Curtis Samuel. So not surprised. Boy, how many rounds are left in this thing? We got about 7 rounds left. Troutman goes. It's going to end up being a long video. We're an hour into this baby already. Fuller, Strong. So names are just flying off the board right now, because with a lot of these guys, we just don't know. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know if Carson Strong is even going to get. We don't know what sort of draft capital he's going to get. We don't know what Fuller's status is. Does anybody ever know what Will Fuller's status is? I think for my entire fantasy football lifetime, I haven't quite understood what his upside is. But now the question is, are you grabbing guys with a hope that they're going to perform in the this is sort of the dividing. God, there goes Alan Lazard. I was just going to say, this is the dividing line. You grab guys that you have no real full solidified belief in their long-term potential, but you can see a path to where they could have long-term opportunity. A guy, like Everett, a guy like Troutman, Beatty, all these guys. But then we look at a guy like Lazard. Nobody believes that Lazard is necessarily a long-term option, but we know that in 2022, he could be fire. I mean, it's possible that he could be really good in 2022, and that's what that pick is. Here goes Evan Ingram. Again, another dividing line. Could have long-term potential and has one of the greatest athletic profiles and production profiles from college that we've seen at the tight end position, but you can't confidently go with the long-term potential. So what we're doing is we're playing the fence here. Do you grab a guy that's going to give you production today, or do you grab a guy that you think has some longevity to his production? So again, to me, Lazard is a today guy. Let's see. Jefferson is still sliding. I don't want to be the guy to take Jefferson. I don't like a world where I'm the guy who takes Jefferson. There goes Gus Edwards. Back to the running back position. Let me just see who's down here. J.D. McKissick. Boy, this is just brutal. We've thinned out beyond belief. Do you believe in Keyshawn Vaughn in that offense? Maybe with an injury, some opportunity arises. I've got 30 seconds, so I'm going to flip through here. There's still Cole if you're looking for just the upside potential, but so many of these other guys just haven't put it together yet. I grabbed a tight end not too long ago. Not a big fan of some of the names that are still on the board here. 17 seconds, running back position. All right, we're going to go. Boy, this is brutal. I'm going to go Van Jefferson just because he's got the best offense of pretty much anybody still sitting on this board. There is a path to opportunity through injury. The wide receivers in front of him are older. So if you wanted to make a case for a guy that could find his way into a starting role still in the future, it could be a guy like that, because his production hasn't been throttled necessarily by a lack of talent, but just a combination of very good players that are continually, put in front of him. Now I could go Mecole if I'm looking for that upside. Chandler's another interesting name at the running back position. I just don't want to draft a guy that I feel like is not going to perform or not getting, get an opportunity. We saw a little bit from Mecole Hardman. Tyreek is gone. I don't know who's going to fill this role. I'm going to go Hardman here because I'm just looking for a spark, really. So that to me was a guy that I'm taking, looking for that Curtis Samuel, deep threat, best ball ability, Will Fuller type player. So they're all kind of falling, Russell Gage, they're all kind of falling into the same range of player. Looking at my roster right now, it's one thing that I do like about it. Again, I'm not completely in love with this roster. I'm probably going to go day drink after this. The one thing I will say about this roster is that it has a lot of names of players that are talented enough to flash, gain value, and make them a tradable asset, right? I mean, from Van Jefferson to Mecole Hardman, a significant injury to somebody, big performance. They're both in high-end offenses. It is possible that these guys string together performance in their situations that make their value jump up significantly higher. Possibly they find themselves in an early 2023, second round pick type value at some point in season. It's certainly possible if they put it together. So I think these are the types of guys that I'm adding, not only for the fact that there's a path to production, but also that they could have the most potential value, because you look at a guy like Julio Jones. I mean, he's pretty much toast at this point. Gaskins is toast. McKissick is toast. We like Vaughn, but Leonard Fournette has been so good. We get a rookie here. But any of these other guys, like I could see Samuel do some of the same things, come on the scene, play well, gain value. Will Fuller, he's never really strung it together without taking performance-enhancing drugs. So these types of guys may not have the range or the ceiling to jump up more. I think we know who Osborne is. I think we kind of know who Gage is. But I do believe that Van Jefferson and Hardman offer that same thing. It's kind of the same reason I went with Shenault, that tradable potential, that, performance that's sort of been locked away by elite veterans in front of him. So they give me a poker chip to play in the future. So, or a lottery ticket to scratch. And they're probably guys that don't hang on my roster a long time. But at the same time, I also don't want to be one of these guys that's just taking random rookies here. I realize this was an incredibly athletic rookie class, but I don't want to end up being the guy who takes, the absurd rookie. Bo Melton might be a name. I'm going to put him on the board. He's a guy that's super interesting, a lot of upside, athletic. Let's go the running backs. Let's sort by rookies here for a minute. Raheem Mostert timed out. I'm just not in love with these guys at the running back position. And I've got a couple running backs, but this is where you get into the point of the draft where you just literally want to check the box on the running back position as often as possible, because sure, there's upside to these wide receivers. And yes, occasionally they do ascend and you end up with a Jacoby Myers, or you end up with a Donovan Peoples, or you end up with, one of these players. But it's more frequent that we see it at the running back position, in a position with more turnover, a position with more frequent injuries, a position that's more instinctually intuitive. So running backs tend to perform sooner than we see wide receivers perform. So that to me is the reason why you check the box. Jeez, Marlon Mack. How did we miss it, boys? That's on me. How do we miss Marlon Mack? That is, wow, like that pick. Let's see what happens here with some of these selections as we keep going. Benjamin, so again, people are just trying to, check boxes. So I'm probably going to put Chandler on my board as well. Going back to the wide receiver position, Devontae Parker, Bryan Edwards might be a guy that you look at later in this offense. Jalen Reagor has just fallen out of favor. I'm going to click Antonio Brown for a guy that I'm going to take a look at later, because clearly he's still got something left in the tank. And if for some reason he ended up somewhere like Green Bay, I don't see how they couldn't possibly put some magic together. He's got a surgery, I think, in the future too, but he's waiting on that. I don't know how significant the surgery is or the rehab will require it to be. Cam Newton has been getting a little buzz. I'm going to click him as well. Thumbing through here. Yeah, it's ugly at the quarterback position. Look at how far the Kellen Mond hype train has fallen. People were all over him at one point, not so much anymore. Trask, still a second-round pick behind Tom Brady. Don't know if he's going to ever be the answer or ever get an opportunity there. Let's click back to wide receiver. Jarvis Landry still hanging around. I mean, if you need late veteran-type production, Landry certainly offers it. It just depends on the build of your roster. I wish that I had a few more premier players. Again, I think that Derrick Henry pick where I fell asleep on the clock is that's on me. That's on you, Nate. You did that to yourself. You deserve that. But seeing these types of players go off the board right now doesn't surprise me one bit because we're all just basically attempting to scratch a lottery ticket. Let's go back to the tight end position. Hooper. Jonnu Smith is so athletic. O.J. Howard went to Buffalo. I mean, I think that there's some potential upside there. There goes Chandler. So I lost him. There goes Trask. We talked about him off the board. So I'm looking at the guys that I have here. Cam Newton's a guy that I'll probably wait a little bit on, knowing that we only have so many rounds left in this draft. So, man, I need productive running back assistance. I'm going to go Nyheim Hines just because there's not a lot of depth in this backfield, and Hines has a role independent of something that Taylor does, and we've seen Hines absolutely eat in the past. So I'm going to go Nyheim Hines here. And then now back on the clock, back to back. God, Bo Melton has a lot of upside. If you want to gamble on a wide receiver that's athletic, it's desolate. Kendrick Bourne was good last year, but they added Devontae Parker. How much do you actually believe about what his capabilities will be in this offense? Quez Watkins, primarily out of the slot here. Do they do anything to replace him? He has a bunch of upside as well. Potentially, D. Eskridge. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's certainly not pretty. I don't believe in Cedric Wilson going to his new location, obviously, after being completely buried. Do you give up on Bryan Edwards, or do you take one more shot on Bryan Edwards? I'm going to take one more shot on Bryan Edwards. This is an absolutely absurd pick. Nope, not doing it. I'm going to go. Yep, we're going with Bryan Edwards. Oh, shit, I lost him. Bryan Edwards, did I get him? Oh, my gosh. What am I doing out here? Almost running out of time on the clock. Again, Bryan Edwards came in with this prospect profile that was so crazy. Maybe it takes him a little longer to break out the way that Devontae Parker finally broke out. Yet to be determined. I realize they bring in Devontae Adams. That certainly hurts things. Darren Waller is there as well. But again, we look at injury potential. We look at ascension. We look at, does he put it all together in his next season? I don't know, but I see the upside there. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I'm going to check his box as well. I don't love him, but when you're talking about a deep threat, best ball, explosive option, might be another guy for teams looking for a late pick. KC did sign him for a significant value above what they signed Juju Smith-Schuster for. So that matters. But Juju's still the guy. Juju is still the guy here. Here goes all these running backs at this point are going to be just hopefuls, from Evans to Drake to Patterson, right? Like, these are all guys that we're drafting right now with the hope that they perform well enough that they become a piece that you can package into a trade. You hope that you get, I hope that I get, if I'm this team, it would be great if I got performance out of, Myles Gaskins, which is not going to happen because of Edmonds. But let's say one of these guys pops off potentially with an injury and Odell comes back and finally starts performing, or Kenny Golladay, great example, starts performing well. If I could take Golladay, who's performing well, let's say for the first 3-4 weeks of the season, and pair him with Gaskin or Patterson if they had some role increase opportunity, and I could spin them for a package to move into another player or into a hopeful or into a rookie pick, I would do it. And I think that's what a lot of this is, because we've past the point where the savvy upside veterans exist. There is, I mean, if we sort on here based on fantasy, so if I go all and I sort by fantasy points, this is what you're seeing. This is, Sleeper is saying, hey, Jamal Williams is the best option. So you're not looking at any players that are, going to be life-altering options. We've got guys here that could certainly have breakout performances. To me, Quez Watkins is one of those guys if he survives what they do in Philly. Philly is likely to take a wide receiver. The question is, does that push him out of that slot role? And the answer might be no. He might still have a great opportunity in the slot role, which is a big reason why you might look at a guy like Quez. Because again, what we're trying to do is not only find guys that can give us value in season, but we're looking for guys, holy shit, Paris Campbell's still in the league, but we're looking for guys that can give us value during the season so that we can turn and burn them. Because if by round 20, with round 19, 20, and 21, you're drafting guys that you're going to start without injury, without suspension, without benching, by a team, then you've got some serious problems. None of these guys should be starters on your roster. This is a savvy group of drafters. Nobody fell. Okay. You're not going to see Rondale Moore in the 21st round. That's not what happens. It's not how this is going to work out. So, oh God, there goes Antonio Brown. That was, okay. So that was going to be one of my guys that I was willing to take a stab at this late, because his upside of every single player out here, I would argue that his upside on a weekly performance capability is higher than anybody. I actually think that Cam Newton might also have a similar level, but he wants to take a backup role. But again, if Cam got a starting job, he's going to put up fantasy points. That's what Cam Newton does. He just doesn't have that long-term potential. But in a situation where, let's say, an NFL team is 6 or 7 weeks into the NFL season and he's the backup quarterback and they lose their starter, Cam is going to be the guy for the rest of the season. They're not going to go beat the streets looking for another veteran quarterback to try to fill that role. Cam Newton will run with the job until the season ends. So he offers that capability. He's not the type of quarterback where, like Huntley, like possibly Trask at this point, where the starter gets hurt, they bring in Trask. Trask doesn't play well. They go to the third string quarterback. I think that Cam Newton is good enough where the third string quarterback never comes into play. So we'll see what happens here. Let's wait and see. Parham, a lot of tight ends going here. There were some tight end names that were interesting. I know we like Dan Arnold. Foster Moreau, another super interesting name with a ton of athleticism. I'm on the clock. Don't want to talk my way through it again. I'm going to go Quez because I like the upside of Quez. Again, looking for a guy that'll pop off. Now, the question is, do you go upside tight end here? Because I could use another tight end with a guy like Howard or a guy like Foster Moreau. Or do you go with a guy at quarterback? Because I only have 2 quarterbacks still. I really am one of the rare teams in this group that hasn't gone quarterback very much. So let's look at the quarterback position one more time. Gardner Minshew could get some opportunity. Mond, I don't think we're going to see it. Rudolph might be the starter, but obviously Trubisky's probably going to maintain that role. There's just nothing here. Cam Newton has a lot of fantasy upside. He's obviously not a long-term answer. Let's see what this pick does to the chat. Chat's down here. I'm curious to see what happens when I take him. I take Cam Newton. Let's see what the chat does. Newton just offers upside. We even saw it in New England. Like, him on his own can create some serious fantasy value. And again, a team that might be hurting could probably use a guy like him if he sees a clear path to possible production over the last 6 to 7 weeks of the NFL season, heading into the playoffs. One of these teams that's sitting on, a non-solid set of quarterbacks might go, okay, I can use Cam Newton over the last couple weeks of the season just for that pure upside alone, and then I can get him off my roster. But again, I kind of made myself a little thin at quarterback. I passed on quarterback so many times. When Mariota got selected, that was a guy that we had queued up that I really wanted. Didn't prioritize quarterback after that. And so here we are. Here we are just sitting here. D. Eskridge, elite stack incoming. I see. My queue, as you can see, is thinning out a little bit right now. These guys are just kind of flying off the board. So now we're looking at, this is where some of these wide receivers with upside are just going to start getting ticked off one by one. I'm going to scroll the list here and see if anybody really like stands out. Treylon Smith just never necessarily put it together. There's AJ Green, a veteran, maybe a very last pick. Might keep an eye on him. Scrolling. Everybody else here is just, there's Auden Tate. I'm not a huge Auden Tate fan, and neither is anybody else. You can see how far the guy is literally falling right now in the draft. Go back to running back. We've gotten to the point now where we've got a lot of younger guys up towards the top. Let's see what's going on here. Holy smokes, we're flying. Now we're just flying. Who went off the board here? Amari Rodgers, KJ Hamler. Those are some upside names. I mean, again, Amari Rodgers could certainly have an opportunity in that. Oh, Foster Moreau went. Now I'm going to lose everything that I've ever believed in over the next couple picks as guys are just trying to round out positional needs. We're sort of getting past the point where there's a lot of upside to some of these players. So let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens in this next one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Pacheco in here. I'm going to put Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm going to add a rookie with a crazy athletic profile. And I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna make him my last pick. I'm gonna go Pacheco with the final pick, just because that's what the people need. Let's see what's going on here. Bridgewater. Okay, Bridgewater's a good pick here. I mean, we're so far down in the draft. Who knows what happens with Tua? It's totally possible that we see some lack of performance take place and some questions about the starting job. A lot of us want to believe in him. I mean, obviously I believe in him. I took him really early in this draft. I just think his situation got so much better, and I believe, based on what we had seen prior to this, that the skill set exists now that they're solidifying the line, adding weapons, adding run game help. So it's hard not to believe in him. So I'm definitely focused on that. So what's going on here? All right, so I'm on the clock. I'm double tapping here. So we're going to round this baby out in great fashion. So I'm going to just look at running back one more time. Mike Davis, I don't really know what happens here. We could hit the Mike Davis button one more time. I think they're going to add competition too. Max Borghi. Duke Johnson went to Buffalo. Let's do it. We're going Duke Johnson. Feel good about the Duke Johnson pick. Loving that. Now I'm just going to hit some rookies. I'm going to hit Bo Melton just to offend the crowd. And then my last pick. Oh, Pacheco went. They took him. You stole, all caps, you stole Pacheco. Did I type it right? Done. You was talking about him for 2 minutes, hoping that was the guy that we were going to add to the mix, but I guess not. Congratulations on your absolute theft. Unbelievable. Right at the very end. Was going to take him very last. You kind of passed on him twice at the turn. I wanted to close out. Oh, boy. Look at that. Look at you. You kind of passed on him twice on the turn, Nate. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Really wanted him. Missed opportunity. My entire queue has been wiped out at this point. So Now we got to look in here one more time. I needed something. I needed something solid to go out on. You know what? Do I go out in great fashion with a guy like Andrew Luck? Oh, sleeper, you took him. Oh no, that's why. I'm just curious if I go out with I wish they had a guy like Dan Marino in here. So I could take Dan Marino and people will be like, what are you doing, man? Why are you doing that? Coming up to me, I'm going to be the last pick in the draft. And boy, I was really hoping that I would have better odds of something. Boy, you guys really put me in a precarious position. What about Will Dissly, right? For some reason, Seattle loves this guy. And I'm stuck. I mean, Hunter Long was a day 2 pick, went to Miami. He's got upside. I'm coming up on the clock here in just a minute. And let's see here. Boy, you guys, this group of guys, how dare you? They're Strachan. Borgie went off the board. Oh, Geis. Yes. I have added him to a couple rosters in Dynasty, and I'm on the clock with the very last pick. You know what? Screw you. I'm doing it. They took him out. Andrew Luck's not in here. You guys are the worst. All right. Well, we're going Will Dissly. Bink. Dissly it is. Closed out. Draft is closed out. Let's look at this draft board for a second. Let me minimize myself. Bloop. So let's look at this board. So some teams, I mean, it's really interesting. Look at this. So Tony Thomas goes 2 quarterbacks and then a massive gap to his next QB. Doesn't pick again until 19. I go 2 QBs in the front. Don't pick again until roughly 20. I would say that we are probably the weakest at the position without looking just yet because we both have elite starters. But then our backups, our second guys are, obviously Tua's situation is significantly better than Lawrence's. There's no question about that. So the confidence in taking Tua and especially getting him 3 rounds later to me was my value. But let's look at some of these rosters. Looking at these quarterbacks, Mahomes, Fields, Trubisky. Obviously, this is kind of a similar situation. 1 guarantee, a lot of hopefuls. Herbert, Wentz, Minshew, not bad. Carr. So I think he's got good weapons here at quarterback. Obviously, he's got great receivers right here. Going to get a lot of performance out of them. Plus Kelsey, plus productive runners. The question is, do the Jets add somebody? They like Carter. Curious to kind of see what they do there. But then he went and tried to, this was a timeout, I believe, on Mostert. But went and tried to add some other weapons around that. Grab some quarterback hopefuls in here as well. Like that pick. Kyler Murray, Stafford, monster weapons there. Then you get Diggs, you get Hopkins with the stack, Evans. So got performance out of veterans here. And then, of course, the running backs are still strong. Clyde Edwards could perform well this season. We don't know what KC does, even with Jones there. And, I like James Robinson going forward 2 years. Just the way that Marlon Mack happened could happen exactly the same for James Robinson. The way that Mack tore his Achilles tendon, Jonathan Taylor comes in, doesn't get the job back, hits free agency, boom, goes to a different location. Could be the same thing for James Robinson, except Robinson had a much better NFL production profile. Could be the same thing. Rehab takes a while. ETN takes the job. We reach the end of the season. He becomes a free agent. That's why I took him in a startup draft not too long ago. Probably similar location to this, just knowing that there's a chance that he gets a starting role elsewhere. These are all hopeful receivers. Ross is probably toast. Palmer probably never happens. Mechie, don't know about that, but a lot of upside there as well. Some quarterback options. Did a lot of tight end gambling, hoping that one of these guys would fire for him. Lamar Jackson, Willis, Tannehill. I like the 3. Look, if Willis fires, Lamar Jackson and Malik Willis is going to be an absurd combo. I mean, that could be a ridiculous combo. Then you've got Deontay, Drake, Judy, Olave. He's one that got AB and Landry. So you got solid receivers potentially here. Running game, you get Brees and then a bunch of question marks. I think you're going to have You could have a competitive running game in 2022, but I think we fast forward to 2023 and there's going to be a lot of problems here. But I might not be so different with the Derrick Henry pick. I wanted to have 3 running backs, but the Henry pick really, I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. And then we get over here, Burrow, Wilson, stud combination. You're set for a long time. Congratulations on that. Blitzing buzzard. T. Higgins, love it. Cam Akers, ton of upside. Waller could be one of the best at the position. Garrett Wilson, very well could be the best receiver of this whole class when it's all said and done. He truly has that potential. Mills, is he or isn't the answer in Houston? They're leading us to believe that he might be. Thomas is going to be ultra productive in 2022. Could finish as the wide receiver 1 overall. Not joking about that. Go check out my short. Schultz, love it. Renfro, still a lot of upside. Then, takes a lot of chances at running back, which you like to see here. Singletary had a good stretch last year. Some people believe Stevenson is better than Harris. I don't. James Cook, a lot of upside. And then, again, kind of tried to check some boxes at wide receiver, grab some names of players that he thought had upside. Again, I think Lazard in 2022 could be fire, depending on what they do. And then down here, just, again, taking shots. Bridgewater late was good. Started off 3 solid running backs. Best running back core of probably any team. I can look through these, but Eckler, Chubb, yeah. I mean, when you've got Taylor, McCaffrey, and Mixon, you're on fire. Quarterbacks could be underwhelming performers. Maybe they're more significant contributors to this roster in another year from now. We know Wilson's offense is a lot worse than Jones. I think Jones looked a little more NFL ready based on some of his hurdles last season, but both guys have upside, so you're taking a gamble there. But then you take a lot of shots on wide receiver, right? Bunch of rookies here in a row. Then you grabbed Ayuk, who I like. Tony has upside, but we don't know there. Mayfield, don't know if he ever even starts again, short of whatever period of time we miss from Watson possibly, or he holds out. I don't know what he does. Penny had upside. Then all 3 of these guys feel kind of the same to me in a sense where the only one of the 3 we really believe is has true like longer term upside is Gallup, but I could see Chark having a decent year. I could see Boyd still playing that 3rd role being okay. Took some shots at tight end. I like it. And again, taking shots at running back. These are all guys with upside and more tight ends. And then Watson and Lance, okay, that is an absurd combo. Plus getting Matt Ryan and getting Goff. That's a lot of starting quarterbacks. Don't know how long Goff holds his job. I think Matt Ryan could be a player that performs well in Indy and gets extended there a little while. Helps them out. The receivers. I wanted Godwin here, so I like the pick. Obviously, Brown has a ton of upside, best ball type format. But even in week to week, he's probably the guy in Baltimore. We've listened to a lot of analysts say that he is the guy to chase, not a guy like Rashad Bateman amongst these 2. But who knows if Baltimore doesn't go back to a more balanced offense once the run game is re-solidified and healthy. We saw a lack of run game, which then translated to Lamar Jackson throwing the ball even more. So maybe that balance comes into play, which might be better on a per target value basis with Marquise Brown, since he's getting the high value deep targets where we don't know that Rashad Bateman necessarily sees the same thing. Running backs, Gibson, Barkley, and Jacobs. I mean, I like all 3. I think that Jacobs is being slept on, rightfully so, just for past performance. Gibson has immense upside, was already a top 10 guy last year. Obviously, Saquon Barkley could still be a top 5 runner if it all gets put back together, and who knows if he stays in New York. Then took some shots at tight end, I think kind of like everybody else did, and then again took some shots at running back a little later. Nobody in here really feels like a mind-bending value to me. If Kirk has a great year in Jacksonville, which I don't think anybody is necessarily expecting, but if he does have an excellent year in Jacksonville, then suddenly, I'm going to move this up here, then suddenly that makes it look like an excellent selection as late as you were able to get him. Let's move down here. Sort of some gaps in quarterback selection here for Glendale, but getting Jefferson, getting Swift, getting DJ Moore, McLaurin, Keenan Allen, really like that core group of 4 receivers. Really solid. Goddard, again, sort of one of the ends of that tight end run for me. Love that pick. And then, you take some shots. Does Winston play well? What does Garoppolo do? Mariota gets starting job. He might have a 2-year gig there. We don't know. Maybe Atlanta doesn't take a quarterback in this class. Maybe they wait. Maybe they believe in Mariota. I think, again, he has the most upside sort of amongst this group of guys that were available. Then you tag some tight ends, tag some running backs. You took Pacheco from me. Hate you. OG Elite, first tight end taken. Kyle Pitts took him at 111. Obviously, we understand the allure there. Running backs, you could get strong performance if J.K. Dobbins comes back healthy, if Melvin Gordon doesn't end up getting signed in Baltimore, then there's a ton of potential there. Then at the wide receiver position, I mean, I like Elijah Moore. I hope that he survives the NFL draft. I really do. He needs it more than anybody because, again, I don't think that two players are typically going to come out of the same offense and perform top 25 type numbers. It happens, but not as often as you would imagine. And if we shrink that down to a top 12 performer, you're definitely not getting two top 12 performers. And then when you take into the fact that it's the Jets, it's even more unlikely. So you really hope that somebody doesn't get drafted there. Bunch of quarterbacks here. Took some younger guys. So he's got a lot of quarterbacks. Try to take some chances. We think at least the one or two of these rookies goes in the first round possibly. So like the team, but the wide receivers have a lot of question marks. I mean, I've got question marks as well. But, with St. Brown, we don't know if it persists. We don't know if Davis ever hits. Galladay, Beckham coming off injury. So kind of the same thing here. And then my own team, looking at it, Dak and Tua, if Tua fires, again, of all the players whose situations are changing, coaching staff is changing, offense is changing, I think Tua is in maybe the best situation of all of them. So I really like that. Love getting Javonte Williams there, knowing that Gordon is gone. Kenneth Walker, I think, has a ton of upside, and I don't regret taking him before Dobbins, before Barkley, before necessarily Akers. Hopefully Akers can perform well in this offense. I think we believe he can. But I think at some point, Walker and Akers could be a lot closer in value than people believe. And I think the only reason that with Walker, he's not side by side with Akers right now is because he's getting hit with the label of, he's not a pass catcher. If Walker's profile had a more significant pass catching role, it wouldn't really be a question. And I think Walker would still be going before even some of these other names before him. I can see Walker going before Joe Mixon and Antonio Gibson if his profile was more decorated with pass catching, because the running portion of it is absolutely rock solid. I mean, he is a stud runner. That's what we're banking on, and we believe that he will be utilized in the passing game. That's the hope. And then at receiver, I'm really confident in Michael Pittman. I feel good about it. I don't mind that he's my first receiver. Would I have liked it to have been T. Higgins? Yes, I was going to take T. Higgins if he had fallen this far, but T obviously got selected by Buzzard. I wasn't going to take Kupp. I think Kupp's just a little past the age apex for me. There is some belief that he plays longer. But again, I think when you're this early in the draft, it's just tough. It's like, what do you want? Do you want performance today, or do you want a little bit of longevity? So I like Cooper. I like Pittman. Pittman's young. Cooper could have a chance to have a wide receiver one season. Again, I could flip him for future value to a veteran team looking to contend. I could get a future first for him. I truly believe that if we see Amari Cooper averaging 16 and a half, 17 fantasy points a game, being a top 8 type receiver, which is entirely possible with the volume if we get Deshaun Watson playing this year or at some point in any capacity. Went Gesicki. He was definitely one of those guys right in that tier with me for Goddard. Plus, I'm pairing him with Tua Tagovailoa. And then I took some chances, right? I took Juju, who I believe in. Christian Watson, who's a wide receiver in the rookie class and I'm really high on. Tyler Lockett, he could be a trade candidate. Plus, just one of the most rock-solid floors in all of fantasy football. Took Robinson as a running back hopeful. Again, I ended up with Henry, auto pick, which made the Robinson pick a little easier because I have 3 solid running backs. Don't know how long Henry plays, but I needed to put somebody behind him with upside, and I believe Robinson gets day 2 capital. Woods, with an injury to A.J. Brown, becomes the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's been good through his time in Los Angeles, so we'll see what happens in Tennessee. I like the player, don't love the location as much. Laviska Shenault has been on the trade block, very likely that there's a chance that he gets traded during the NFL draft. So we'll see what happens there. And then I went Gronk purely for the upside. Does he play as long as Brady plays? Sure. It would be weird for Tom Brady to have retired and then come back and retire again after 1 year. So my pick with Gronkowski was thinking that Brady actually plays more than an additional year. So if I can get multiple years out of Rob Gronkowski with Tom Brady, I'll take it. Pierre Strong, like I said, could be the next Elijah Mitchell. I talked through a lot of these guys. Took a lot of hopefuls. A lot of guys I think could pop off and play well. Got Cam Newton, who said he's willing to take a backup role, but again, on any given week, could give you QB1 type performance ability. Took Duke Johnson, took Bo Melton. Then I rounded it out with Will Dissly because I have no idea why Seattle loves him so much, guys. Comment what you thought about this mock draft. Where do we get it right? Where do we get it wrong? What team had the best draft? What did I do wrong? Help me help you. And if you guys like this, please definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button. Comment below. And I'll respond to everybody. I always do. And if you guys want to get into a future mock draft with us, look in the description below and you guys will see I've dropped a link to our Discord. We make announcements about it all the time in there. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was almost 2 hours. This was an hour and 45 minutes long. So had a blast doing it. Glad that I was able to jump in here with some of these patrons, some of the public members. It was a good time. So we'll see you guys next time when we do another mock draft.